This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot on my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no L's, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.
Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mac. Tonight, our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Los Angeles Clippers in what represented the first leg of a back-to-back. That meant that they entered this game prioritizing health and injury management above all else. Now, that injury report included the likes of Lonzo Ball, we already know, is being managed in a very, very detailed way. Jarrett Allen with that finger, Sam Merrill with the hand, Craig Porter Jr. with the hamstring, and obviously Max Strus has not debuted yet this season. Now, a notable exclusion was Darius Garland, who was immediately good to see because it's been rough from an injury standpoint for our boy DG, the PG. He had only seen the court, if I'm not mistaken, 4 games prior to tonight's festivities. This gave us the same starting unit that we had the last time out, that being Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson at the 3, DeAndre Hunter at the 4, and Evan Mobley starting at the 5 in place of the injured Jarrett Allen. However, the Cavaliers, if we're going to be objective, if we're going to be 100, are not the only team dealing with injury. Hell, it feels like half the league is dealing with injuries, as there's a big one announced almost every day. Then on the Clippers end, Bradley Beal is out for the year. We already know Derrick Jones Jr. is out. So too is Jordan Miller. But hey, they got Kawhi Leonard back after a 10-game absence, which is good for them, all things being what they are. But of course, this comes after James Harden's 55-point explosion last night. They were playing on the second half of a back-to-back too. So let's just be 100 and objective with that. So I entered this one with a high level of respect for our opponent, suffice it to say. And there are a couple of names over there that can legitimately play high level basketball. I think tonight you saw that on the Clippers end with the likes of Big Zubac, right? This dude, Ivica Zubac, is one of the better players at his position in the entire NBA, as he would finish with 33 points and 18 rebounds, along with 4 assists. Listen, this man almost had 30 and 20 out there on the Cavaliers, and in a game in which you don't have Jarrett Allen available to you, yeah, you're going to feel the impact of what Zoo can do out there. You already saw it last season, where the Cavaliers had a huge performance out of Zoo in the first performance against Cleveland, and he would finish with 14 or 13 on the final performance against Cleveland just last year. So you know how important a player like Jarrett Allen is in these types of games. Moreover, I was very, very impressed with what we got from Evan Mobley in his minutes at the 5, right? We're going to talk about the player of the game. In my opinion, that is Donovan Mitchell. We'll get to him in just a minute. But I got to say, I got to kind of start things off and give credit where it's due. I thought Evan Mobley at the 5 tonight, and this is a position, obviously, where many people believe this is where he will ultimately end up. And that's fair. That's fine to me in time. Right now, though, I do not consider Evan Mobley a full-time center. I think he is still a ways off from being able to consistently play that position and stand up to the physicality there, especially against some of these bigger, beefier 5s out there. And Zoo definitely counts as that. But I thought tonight Mobley acquitted himself very, very well. 18 points, 10 rebounds. That is a double-double from Mobley, along with 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks on a highly efficient 9 of 12 from the field. Listen, if I have a lone bone to pick with Evan Mobley, you guys already know what it is. Y'all know what I'm about to say. It's free throws. Knock down your damn free throws, Evan Mobley. You've got to get to a more efficient point in that regard. Now, over Mobley's last 10 games, it has not been pretty in terms of the free throw percentages, as he is shooting, if I'm not mistaken, 52.2% from the line. Listen, I try to be as objective. I've been called a homer 1,000 times on this channel, but I tried to enter this season with a little bit more objectivity in regard to how I evaluate these players. And free throw shooting, although it is a team-wide issue, it seems as if Mobley has been stricken the most in that regard. So as wonderful as Evan was tonight, it's not without a little bit of sour grapes and a little bit of salt in the wounds there. Like I mentioned, over his last 10 games, Evan Mobley is shooting 52.2% from the charity stripe. He has 36 of 69, including tonight's performance. It's got to get better, especially in some of these bigger games as the season wears on. And while I do believe that it will improve, I hate that it's become a recurring theme. As he went 0-4 tonight, he went 7-11 against Indiana, 4 of 10 against Houston, 5 of 8 against Milwaukee and Memphis, and on and on and on. I want to see him improve in that area. But outside of that, I was really impressed from what we got from Evan Mobley tonight, because this was a tough matchup. Zubac is a player that honestly probably should have been an all-star last year. We know what Harden can do out there, and Kawhi, when he's healthy, he's still one of the best players in the NBA. But still, I thought Mobley was able to contribute just as much as you wanted from him tonight. Now, before we get to Don, another player that I honestly want to really highlight tonight, and really it feels like a trio, Nae'Qwan Tomlin. You guys know I've been preaching the gospel of Nae'Qwan Tomlin for what it feels like an eternity now. Every other video that I release probably has Nae'Qwan Tomlin's name within it. And tonight is another performance that's going to push me in that direction, as Tomlin would finish with 8 points, 2 boards, an assist, a steal, and 2 blocks while going 3 of 5 from the field. And guess what? He knocked down his first triple of the season. Listen, this might sound like really, really small things, and that might seem like a relatively small output in the grand scheme of things to people who don't normally take stock of these players. But honestly, that is the perfect encapsulation of what Tomlin can bring to the table. It's not necessarily always going to look pretty from a statistical standpoint from players like Nae'Qwan Tomlin, who are out there oftentimes because of the energy and passion and aggressiveness that he plays with out there. But Tomlin in tonight's performance was a welcome addition, especially against a very, very physical team in the likes of the Los Angeles Clippers. And so I hat off to this dude, as he played some incredible basketball off that Cavaliers bench in his 21 minutes and 52 seconds of action. And there were a number of sequences tonight where I was just like, golly, you can tell that this guy is ready to be a rotation player. He had a block on one end only to contribute on the other offensively. It's stuff like that where you can impact the game on both ends of the floor, where you're going to find minutes. I know that the team is not completely healthy. I know that there was no Merrill out there. There's still no Strus, right? There's a number of players that did not suit up tonight. But when all is said and done, as long as you're contributing like that and you're making a big impact from a game-to-game basis in terms of energy and hustle and heart out there and just playing passionate basketball, I think that Kenny Atkinson is going to have no choice but to continue to play you. Tomlin was wonderful tonight. I thought from a defensive standpoint, he was awesome. I mean, literally, the block that he had on Harden, I think that was some awesome stuff. And as much as I want to throw the clip in here right now, I can't, because YouTube, they're copyright city. They'll strike it down immediately. No monetization, all that good stuff. But Tomlin's ability to impact the game on both ends of the floor is a huge reason why Kenny has routinely gone to him. Who else was wonderful tonight? Tyrese Proctor, the Rook. Listen, the second round pick that probably should have been a first round selection, lucked into by the Cleveland Cavaliers picking him in the second round. Listen, Proctor was phenomenal in the minutes that he got tonight. 17 minutes and 5 seconds of action. And in that small, modest amount of time, he contributed 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists out there, and shot 3 of 7 from the field, including 2 of 5 from deep. There was a couple of sequences from him tonight that were absolutely beautiful and showcased his two-way ability. Listen, Tyrese Proctor is a player that I think entering this season, not many people truly expected to have a huge impact going into the latter stretches of the year. And while that very well may be true and his minutes may be sporadic as the team returns to full strength, I think that you have seen already that this young man has what it takes to be a future rotational piece for this Cavaliers team, and will make you feel better when you have to make contractual decisions on the likes of Strus, on Merrill down the line, right? Some of these guys that he's directly competing with or for minutes with. And that's a great thing, especially in this new CBA where you have to understand that the name of the game is finding cheap talent to support your core with. And I think that Kobe Altman, Mike Gansey, and the rest of that front office, right? I want to give everybody credit where it's due. I think they have done a fantastic job trying to support this core with complementary pieces. It's not always pretty. And yeah, it's still a work in progress from a number of these young pieces. But I have to say, I've been pleasantly surprised with the development of a number of these players. And it wasn't just Proctor. It wasn't just Tomlin. Luke Travers even got in on the action, folks. If you've been watching this channel for the last couple of seasons, you know that your boy is a huge Luke Travers fan. Only thing that has really held Travers back up to this point in his pro basketball career has been his inability to knock down that three-point shot. And while he would go just 1 of 3 from three-point distance tonight, he has steadily shown you that he can impact the game in other areas, whether that be on the defensive end, where he would finish with 2 steals tonight. We've already seen him reject a number of shots on this season, and his ability to go out there and attack the glass and find the open man. He makes the correct pass. He makes the correct read oftentimes. And at the G League level, you have seen him have performances where he is very unafraid to pull the trigger. And that's exactly what you want him to do, obviously. But when he gets these pro level minutes with the NBA club, you want to see him continue to look confident in taking that stroke. And I thought that despite making just 1 of his 3, it was really big of him to go out there and take advantage of the opportunity that he was afforded tonight in about 15 minutes of game action with all these players that are out. And so Travers, with his confidence rising, with his ability to knock down 3 eventually, it's not far-fetched to believe that Travers could make the jump to full-time rotation piece. As you guys know, right? I've covered this dude for a number of years. And as you guys know, the three-point shot truly feels like the only thing that has held him back from consistently getting minutes at the NBA level outside of injuries, because he's dealt with a couple of those over the years. And so if he can stay healthy and he can finally knock down a three-pointer or 2 when he sees time, I think that he's also going to eventually have to turn to Travers as well. And one of the players that I've always likened to Luke too, and you guys may scoff at this, but he kind of reminds me of Kyle Anderson. This is a player who did not start his career shooting the 3 ball all that well, and he eventually turned into a serviceable shooter while providing the rebounding, while providing the secondary playmaking, while providing the defense out there. It's underrated. And he's not the quickest athlete, and neither is Travers, but both are 2 crafty members of the NBA. And right now, if they can get Travers to a point where he's knocking down, I don't know, 35, 36, 37% of his triples on even limited volume, I think that he has a place in the NBA. Now, it may not be with the Cavaliers when all is said and done, but obviously I hope it is. And I think that it just speaks to the developmental staff that the Cavaliers have in place, that they're able to constantly find these end of draft or undrafted gems. And while they may not all turn into consistent role players or stars in their roles, I don't know how you can't give them credit, because over the years, we have seen them get solid minutes out of the likes of Dean Wade. We've seen them get him from Lamar Stevens. You've gotten them from Craig Porter Jr. now, right? Travers at this point in time, Nae'Qwan Tomlin. There are a number of pieces that, I probably failed to mention as well, but they are making sure that they are finding quality pieces in the back end of the draft and undrafted. And that's just a shout out to the developmental staff and the front office and being able to bring these guys in. And so I hope that continues. I hope that we see these guys a little bit more consistently as health becomes paramount. I think that at this point in time, and there was a lot, and I'll talk about this too. I'll bring this up. If you're on social media, you know, two of the fan bases that we're hearing from a lot right now, it's the Toronto Raptors, who the Cavaliers play tomorrow on the second leg of a back-to-back, and it is the Detroit Pistons fans, right? And so the reason that I bring this up is because when you're prioritizing health, to me, I get it. I completely understand because it gives us the opportunity to see some of this young and developing talent like Proctor and Tomlin and Travers, right? But it also it gives a bulletin board material for other teams for some reason. And I don't even know if that's the right turn of phrase to use. It gives other teams this ammunition to throw at the Cavs or Cavs fans and talk about, you know, resting and, you know, not taking opponent seriously. I'm just like, honestly, I don't care enough to continue to converse back and forth with these people because it gives us the opportunity to see some of these bright young performers get their turn to showcase what they can bring to the table. And you're seeing that pay off big time with players like Tomlin and Travers, right? And so it's beautiful to be able to see them blossom after getting these opportunities. And so if that's what it takes, if it takes certain guys not playing every night, that's fine with me because you finally get to see what these players can bring to the table. Because for a number of years, you've had players, or you've had fans rather, clamoring to see Travers actually get a shot at the NBA level. You have had people just last season when Tyson was drafted say, hey, when is this guy going to get consistent opportunities? You've had people say, oh, where can we fit in Craig Porter Jr.? I know Craig wasn't out there tonight, but he's had a handful of performances already this season that have shown you that if you give him consistent play time, if you give him real minutes, he can contribute at a high level. And he's shown you that this season. And there are just like 4 or 5 of these guys on this roster this year that have begun to do that, from Tyson to Tomlin to Proctor and Travers and more, right? You're seeing that finally play out. And I'm so damn happy and excited about that. And I know that I've spent so much time talking about the latter half of the rotation that I can't even gloss over, you know, the performance that we got from Donovan Mitchell. Listen, this was a fantastic individual performance from a number of players, from Mobley to Hunter 17 to Tyson, right? Proctor, all these other names that I mentioned, but perhaps none better than the one, the only Spider Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, in 32 minutes and 39 seconds of action, was 14 of 22, including 5 of 9 from deep, 4 of 4 from the charity stripe. So he didn't suffer from the same free throw issues tonight as Evan Mobley did, on his way to 37 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. This dude has played at an MVP level this season. Listen, I don't if people believe that it's just the regular season. I don't care about the detractors that says, oh, well, Donovan hasn't made it out of the second round, things of that nature, which those are valid criticisms. I don't want to get away from that too far. That is valid. But at the same time, I think that when we say shit like that, we're underscoring the context that's involved with some of these playoff exits, for one, and we're underscoring the massive amount of just impact that these one individual players, and in this case, it's Donovan Mitchell, have for their teams. There are a lot of games this year already where if Donovan does not decide to go off, or Donovan doesn't cook the way that he has, the team is probably not winning that game. And tonight, regardless, I think that if Donnie doesn't step up the way that he does in a game where Darius, because Darius is still trying to find his footing out there, as he would finish with 8 points and just 3 of 10 from the field, including all 4 from deep. Obviously, it's going to be a struggle for Darius to get back in rhythm, or it's going to take some time rather for him to get back in rhythm. But it helps to know that you have all these other pieces that are capable of scorching the twine when that's the case, whether that be Hunter, whether that be Mobley, whether that be Tyson, right? Or Sam Merrill when he's out there on a heater. But to say that Donovan Mitchell hasn't been at an MVP caliber level this season just would be crazy, sacrilege to me. He's a top 10 performer in that regard. And I think that that is not only showing up on the court and on the film, but it's showing up on the stat sheet. He's just absolutely destroying teams to begin this season. And most of the time, it's really, really efficiently. Over his last 10 games, Donovan Mitchell is averaging 31.5 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 5.8 assists while shooting 37% from deep and 49.8% from the field overall. He has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 30-point games in his last 10 appearances. This dude is absolutely cooking. We do not need to take him for granted. And I understand that the one thing that I think we all want to avoid is running him into the ground. We want to avoid making sure that, we want to avoid him grinding his body into dust, right? We don't want him to be just completely a shell of himself down the stretch in the season. And I'm hoping and praying that's not the case, as they frankly needed him to be a Herculean type of player out there, right? He has had some Herculean performances, and frankly, the Cavaliers have needed that this year at various points as they've dealt with so many injuries across the board. But you just see the body of work that he's showcased this year, and there's absolutely no way to me that you can think that he hasn't been a top 10 performer, a potential number all NBA first team type of selection this year. It's just been that phenomenal and that consistent from Donovan. And I know that he's not likely to win the MVP. I'm not going to kid myself into believing that. But he's continued to be somebody that the Cavaliers can lean on in crunch time. And I think that if you look across the spectrum or scope rather of the league, there are not many players that can match his pure impact out there from a night to night basis. And tonight was yet another reminder of that. As he's out there he's just cooking dudes off the dribble, right? There's nothing out there, at least from an offensive standpoint. He's a true 3-level scorer. There's absolutely nothing that this dude cannot accomplish from an offensive standpoint when he is cooking. And even in games where his shot is not falling, one of the things that he has kind of prided himself on doing is getting to the line. And you're seeing that. And I know that the team as a whole struggle. Now Donovan has had his games where he's struggled from the line. But I think that over the course of these games, you have seen kind of the evolution of Donovan. As you know, it's not necessarily all just the 3-point shot. Mitchell has been extremely efficient this year in the mid-range area, and it's a big reason why, despite shooting under 39% from deep, he's still shooting 50.7% from the field, because he's just been so damn efficient from inside the arc and frankly from mid-range area that he hasn't been required to knock down a crazy amount of triples to begin the season. And he has, because he's taken them at a high volume. But when you look at his accuracy from the mid-range area, this dude is, in no lie, this is not an exaggeration. Entering tonight, Donovan Mitchell was shooting 60% from the mid-range zone. And that is in the 100th percentile over on cleaning the glass. He's in the 100th percentile in all mid-range shots. He's in 62nd, shooting 62% on long twos, which is in the 98th percentile. And he's in the 95th percentile at 58% in terms of short mid-range shots, which is any shot outside of 4 feet but inside of 14 feet, which is free throw line distance. Just to paint you a picture, a portrait rather. Mitchell has been extremely efficient. He's been extremely effective, and there's not really anybody that the opposition has been able to throw at him that has truly slowed him down. Really, the name of the game when it comes to Mitchell is containment, and rarely have teams been able to truly contain him. And I think the one player for me, if I'm being 100% objective, that has given Mitchell problems year over year, that they haven't played yet. It's Lu Dort. So I'm going to be really, really interested to see what things look like when Spida happens to face off with Lu Dort. But as of right now, he's putting up MVP caliber numbers, and I absolutely love that. And I hope he continues it against the likes of the Toronto Raptors tomorrow, whose fans have just been talking so much shit. Listen, I understand that when you're in a position like the Raptors are, right? Because Toronto, if I'm being 100% objective, have been a team that has been better than anticipated to begin the year. The same can be said of the Detroit Pistons, who I'll talk about in just a second. But when you look at what they have accomplished over the last couple of seasons, you would think that they already won a title or two. And listen, I know we're not that far removed from Kawhi Leonard leading them to a title, but you would think that they'd had won something more than, or at least 2 or 3 titles with some of the way and some of the statements that their fans make. As it stands right now, they're 11-5. Cleveland is, I believe, 11-6 after tonight's victory, and I think that you have to understand that it's okay to be excited about where your team is at. It's okay to understand or be mindful of the fact that you're actually exceeding expectations. And I think Toronto is doing that as the number 2 seeded team in the East as of recording this over on NBA.com. But I just think that you got to just settle down a bit. As I mentioned, a Raptors fan earlier, the Cavaliers have been at the top of the regular season mountain. They were just there last year. And that all ended for naught because of injuries and other reasons that, honestly, if we're being frank, a lot of them were outside of the Cavaliers' control. Some of them were. And unfortunately, it's gotten to a point where the regular season success doesn't mean as much to most fans as it does the postseason. And that's fine, right? Postseason matters more ultimately. Regular season still matters. But it's gotten to a point where, I mean, if the Raptors finish with a better regular season record than Cleveland, and make no mistake, I do not believe that will end up happening. I don't care, even if it does. What I'm hoping for is for this team to ultimately get a top 4 seed, hopefully top 3, and be relatively healthy, if not completely healthy. Make sure that Lonzo finishes the end of the season and is ready for the playoffs. Make sure that Darius Garland has enough time to fully acclimate himself to that level of play that he had last year, and that he stays upright. Make sure that Larry Nance Jr. and some of these reserves are able to completely stay healthy. Same with Donovan Mitchell and others, right? Really just the whole roster in general. But at the end of the day, as long as they get a top 4 seed, I could care less who finishes above them. I just want health. So if the fans are going to continue to chirp, if we're going to continue to hear some of the bullshit that we hear from Raptors fans and Pistons fans, it's so be it. As long as we're healthy, those teams do not put the fear of God in me. That's literally where I stand right now, because the Cavaliers, at face value, they're a decent team. They're a high level team, but when they have their full complement of players, they're in that realm of the upper echelon of teams in the NBA, teams like OKC, right? There are not many teams that can beat Cleveland when they're at 100% strength. And that is my 100% belief. Call me a homer, say whatever you want. But at this point in time, that's where I'm at with the Cleveland Cavaliers. This team that we're watching is not even going to be the same team that we're watching come February, March, April, because they're not at full strength. The rotations obviously are not the end all be all, because we're seeing a lot of the young talent get opportunities. And that's a great thing, because I think it speaks to the level of development you're going to be able to utilize going into next year when you have to make some very tough decisions. But the team and the rotations that we're seeing right now, they're not the same as what we'll be seeing come season's end. And so just take what you're seeing right now and enjoy it. Enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, because that is going to be the best part of this regular season. And it may not always be pretty, but if you win, I mean, that gives you an added bonus. And that's the important part, is to keep perspective on where you're at right now. And nights like tonight really go a long way in affirming that, where you can have some of these off shooting nights from your stars and Darius Garland and still get picked up by others and still see the progress that the youth has made. And tonight, it was beautiful to watch. With that being the case, let's hop into the chat. Let's see here. Trevi T says, time. Yeah. Jawan Sylvan says, big dub. D Jackson H1K says, the rejection by Tomlin on Harden was amazing. I was shocked that he blocked Harden like that. He's playing aggressive on both ends. And the most awesome part about this is because we know Tomlin's a very passionate guy. We've heard him express it. We've seen it on the film, seen it on the court. We've seen him have some hard fouls. But the most impressive part to this to me is that there just appears to be no off switch for this guy. He's 100% all the time. It's like Jalen Tyson out there. These guys only know one speed, and it's like 100 all the time. He's 10 out of 10 in the effort category, in the hustle category, and I absolutely love it. And I think as time goes on, like some of the fouls that they have gotten called for, it'll improve as officiating knows and gets a feel for how they play defense, and they'll improve their positioning as time goes on and have a little bit more situational awareness. But it just goes to show you that these two have so much potential, and Tomlin in particular, from an energy standpoint, I'm not sure there's anybody else on this roster that can match this guy's pure energy out there. TK and NY says, Cavs bench can play. Yeah, I mean, there are specific performances where I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? You're not contributing anything from an offensive standpoint. And then there are others when I'm just like, this bench is going to be just fine, especially when you get Strus back and you have lineups that you can throw out there like Lonzo, Sam, Strus, Tyson, and Tomlin. You can plug and play. And I think that they're going to be just fine. The Real McCoy TV 678 says, let's go, y'all. Honestly, this was a fun performance, man. TK and NY says, no shade on Okoro, but JT is what we wanted him to be, and it's just start of year 2. I agree. As a huge fan of Isaac Okoro and somebody who still believes in him having a productive NBA career, Tyson has undoubtedly morphed into what we always envisioned Okoro to be. And I think that there's nothing wrong with saying that. Tyson has been a two-way contributor. He looks like a legitimate two-way wing out there, one that we always wanted Isaac to be. And so it's been awesome to see Tyson come in and contribute the way that he has. By the way, if you're not aware, if I haven't already mentioned it, Tyson will finish tonight with 7 points, 4 rebounds, and shot 3 of 6 from the field. And his defense was certainly felt out there. TK and NY also says, Clippers on back-to-back, but got Leonard back. Yeah, I mean, I started off the show by saying and trying to give them their fair share and just kind of alluding to the fact that Cleveland is not the only team in the NBA that has seen their fair share of injuries, as Clippers have kind of been ravaged themselves with them. And they got Kawhi back tonight, but they're coming off a brilliant performance from James Harden, who dropped 55. Zubac was obviously very involved in that game as well. But Big Zoo had a wonderful performance tonight. All things being clear, he had nearly a 30-20 game. And Zoo is a player that plays at an all-star level, especially in the role that they ask him to play. And it's been awesome. Ian 7064 says Proctor is going to be the new Ty Jerome for the Cavs. Probably not happening this year since he's a rookie, but wait till next year. Big things coming. I think that's a fair assumption. I think there are a number of players that are going to be vying for that role when the Cavaliers are at full strength. But if we're just going for like play style, yeah, I think that Proctor can provide that off the bench scoring in a pinch, somebody who can light it up from outside the three-point arc. And hopefully, because we've already seen him have some wonderful sequences in terms of the ball handling and driving. And hopefully that continues to get better, because it hasn't always been efficient from him. But you expect that in a guard's rookie season. And I think that he will have every opportunity to step into that role. Floyd Phillips II says, For all you trade Jarrett Allen individuals, I give you Zubac. 33-18-4. We need Jarrett Allen. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I know that Floyd has been a big proponent of getting the bigs involved and playing through them a lot more than they have this year. And with Darius Garland back out there, I think you see like how much the Cavaliers transition from being an overly reliant three-point shooting team as they shot 45 triples tonight without Jarrett Allen out there. But I think that you see Darius Garland's impact in getting these guys involved. And I think you even saw Donovan Mitchell try to do a little bit more, a little bit better in trying to get them the ball, but some of his passes didn't make it all the way through. But I think that you see some of these matchups that the Cavaliers will have to go through in the East in particular, and you're going to need Allen out there for those, regardless of how you feel, because as of right now, I do not believe Evan Mobley is a full-time center. He's just not. He can play there. He's played most of his minutes there this season. But that's in a lot of lineups where he's playing against some reserve bigs. And when he's been asked to start at the 5, it can be hit and miss. Tonight was a good performance, legitimately. But I think that it also highlights on that other end where you see Zoo going off and pulling down a gazillion offensive rebounds, as he would finish with 7 offensive rebounds by himself. Clippers got 12 on the night overall. But it just highlights the need for another true center out there. And I think that is why having a player like Jarrett Allen is so important. I will say this, though. I did expect to see Thomas Bryant in this game. And for some reason, I don't know if they just felt more comfortable with Larry playing, because Larry played 12 minutes, 31 seconds. And I thought that there was some good run from Larry in this one at times. But I did expect to see Thomas Bryant more than we did, especially with Zubac out there. But I'm not the coach. I'm not going to act like I know more than Kenny. And the Cavaliers won ultimately, despite Big Zoo going off for as much as he did. So not too many true complaints. Freddie Black says Cavs are deeper this year compared to last year. Absolutely. The real reality is that they just haven't been healthy. But if they can get there, if they can even get to like 90% healthy, they're a very formidable team. They're a title contender in my eyes, but health has been this elusive thing for them over the last couple of seasons, especially come the playoffs. I hope that changes this year, but time will tell. We're still a ways off. Chaz Erica says DG still doesn't have his game legs, but no mobility issues. Yeah, there were a number of times in which tonight where he legitimately tried to get to his spots, and I thought they did a pretty good job of doing that, but there were also others where clearly it just wasn't falling. I know he lost his footing on one and he ended up airballing a layup, or a floater rather, and you don't want that to be the case continuously. But I think that as the season goes on, if he's able to stay healthy, he'll get his legs under him. He went just 0-4 from deep tonight, 3 of 10 overall, but I don't expect that to be the thing that it continues. It's not always pretty, but I think the process is still looking good for him. Nicotine 2977 says Zubac kills Allen too. He had the same type of game last season when he played them. I think you're also forgetting that Jarrett Allen also had a pretty damn good performance against Zoo in the final game that they played against Cleveland. At some point, it's okay to say that Zubac is just a great player. But if you look back at that March 30th game that Cleveland played against the LA Clippers last year, because everybody points, I don't know why everybody does this, but just points to that first game that they had against Cleveland where Zoo went off, because that's who Zoo is. Zoo is a phenomenal player. But if you go back to that March 30th performance that Cleveland had where they beat the Clippers, Jarrett Allen was actually really good in that game against Zubac. Now, Zubac would finish with a double-double in that one, but not nearly as great as he was in that first game. Just 14 points and 13 rebounds. Jarrett Allen, on the other hand, finished with 25 and 12. So it goes, honestly, both ways in that regard. Big Zoo will have his performances where he eats, but as long as the Cavaliers win, I'm not really going to take that too much against anybody, because Big Zoo is just an awesome guy. He's an awesome player, and I think that's fair. Aizen says, if Donovan keeps up this type of play for a majority of the season, should he be in MVP conversations, maybe a finalist? If you looked at the most recent NBA or Kia NBA MVP ladder, Donovan was top 10. He was the 10th player, and I think that he has deserved to be in that top 10. Honestly, I don't want him to have these gargantuan performances night in and night out. So I'd be okay if he didn't finish in the top 10 and ultimately wasn't a finalist. But if you need him to, hell, that'd be another thing to put on his resume. Another top 10 finish in the NBA, as Donovan has already had a number of those. But I think that I don't expect him. I don't expect him to be a finalist this year, especially with the number of weapons that this team has. Donovan, if you look at over on Basketball Reference, he already has 2 top 10 MVP level seasons over his 9-year career. Back in 2022-23, which was his first season in Cleveland, he was the 6th. He was 6th in MVP voting. And in 2024-25, just last year, he was top 5. So I think that he'll probably have another season where he's in that top 12. But I do believe that Mitchell, as long as he's playing this way, he'll definitely be all NBA. But I think that's a pretty good way to end it off tonight, guys. I know that we have a back-to-back, so I'm not going to go too long-winded with it. Hopefully the Cavaliers can whoop up on the Toronto Raptors tomorrow, because I'm so damn tired of hearing their fans chirp up. But we'll see. We'll see. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out, I can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot, etc. review to It's Cavalier53, and I will send you an invite. If you want to support the pod in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon or YouTube. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. But even if you don't, your boy will still be here, because I know that I love this team and you guys do too. Go Cavs.